I hate the weak version of myself. So I recently began writing down things that are thoughts or ideas that occurred over many weeks, months, maybe years, and try to compress them into a sentence, into a couple of phrases. One of these phrases is that I hate my weak version, and what I maybe to a certain extent assume is that if others are somewhat like me, then they also hate the weak version of themselves, but maybe also of other people. So if I, for example, let's just say, if there's an entity and the entity has a connection to another entity, and then he or she finds out, it finds out that the other connection is actually not that powerful, then basically the network of allies, if there are multiple connections, is just not as strong. So it would be nice if it was stronger, because then the existent network would be basically more valuable in this regard, at least. Think of maybe allies in the past, where one would have a certain ally maybe within a kin or within kinship, where there are multiple things and then a fight breaks out, or maybe not a physical fight but just another fight, which would be maybe a verbal fight. And so one could imagine that it would be useful if somebody who is your ally is actually stronger than somebody who is not your ally. Now, nature kind of also hates the weak, and the weaks basically get just weeded out. Now, I want to bring this down to myself now, and if I look into the mirror, and I see a version of myself that looks like this, then I don't like myself. But if I look into the mirror and I stand up straight and I keep my shoulders back, as Jordan Peterson often mentions, then I have this different image of myself. I look into the mirror and this is like a version of me that I like, a version of me that seems to be somebody. Sometimes I also don't really recognize myself in the mirror. To a certain extent, maybe also because I'm seeing myself maybe from a different angle. If one uses two mirrors, for example, it's like almost if I then have a very good posture and the posture is kind of deviant from my otherwise baseline posture, which to some extent my brain has already modeled, and so my self-representation of myself in my brain, then basically is different from what I see there. And if I then basically have an abnormally good posture, then what I often see is somebody who I could be, somebody who I maybe would like to be in the future. And so this idea of recognizing a trait and recognizing whether this trait is useful or not, and whether it helps maybe or not in the future. And now again back to myself, that if I am just stronger, then I'm probably able to withstand other circumstances more. For example, today, my gym actually got a leaderboard for deadlift, squat, and bench press. And I put my numbers up there, mostly to be first. I was not totally first, but now I'm at least like fourth place, first place, and first place, mostly because I am the first entry in these categories, but not because I'm particularly good, but if I just was stronger. Now, this is only one dimension of being strong. Being strong could also be something else, but in this case it is literally being stronger, being able to pull or push more weight. And I probably within maybe a week will not be on that leaderboard anymore because I'm just not strong enough.